Alright guys, in today's video we have some new information to go over, a new leak specifically that pertains to the PlayStation 5 that I think many of you will be interested in. I am a little bit late to this one, but I still think it's something worth taking a little bit of time here to talk about, because I have to say, if this turns out to be true, just like we talked about in the past, it's going to be a monumental deal for PlayStation 5. It's going to be absolutely huge, and we're going to discuss why exactly that is. It has to do, first of all, with the North America launch date, when the PlayStation 5 is actually going to launch, and at what price it's going to launch at. And then we're also going to be talking about backwards compatibility, and I'm not just talking about PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility, right? I'm talking about PlayStation 4 games, PlayStation 3 games, PlayStation 2 games, and PlayStation 1 games all being playable, even in disc form on the PlayStation 5, which would be absolutely insane if this turns out to be true. Now, where this comes from, it comes from a Twitter account called PlayStation Earbus. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but I recently came across this Twitter account, and at first I was a little bit skeptical as to whether or not this should be believed, because, you know, we just have to take it as it is. It is a person who's running an account that essentially is making it seem as though they are on the inside at Sony and they know pretty much everything or the majority of what's going on with PlayStation, and they're constantly putting out tweets letting us know things. I believe one of the things they said more recently alongside of this news that we're going over today is that Gran Turismo 7 is going to be a launch title, but that's one of those things where it's like, well, anybody could really take a shot in the dark with that and maybe be correct about it, right? Because it seems likely that, yeah, that seems like the type of game Sony would have at the launch of the PlayStation 5. But something I discovered about this source is that they do have a little bit of a track record where they actually correctly predicted the release date confidently of The Last of Us Part 2, where they came out well before we actually got the release date. I'm talking about the initial release date, by the way, not the delayed date that we have now of May. But they said that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be announced, that it's going to be released on February 21st, 2020. And this individual was actually correct, and they were pointing this out a couple months ahead of time. So it makes me think that, yeah, this person who's running this account may actually be legitimate, and the stuff they may be saying, even though they let us know it is subject to change, they're letting us know that these decisions, you know, that are made and the changes that are made, they're not going to be correct about everything, but they're saying that, look, like, this is what I currently know, this is how it is right now inside of Sony. And so that's why I'm prefacing all of this, because I need you guys to know that even though it seems like this may just be a very random source, there is a little bit of credibility here, and that's why I want to take time to go over this and mention it to you, because if this does turn out to be true, it's going to be absolutely huge for the PS5. So starting with the launch date and the price here, says that Sony Interactive Entertainment SIE will launch PlayStation 5 in several countries in the holiday season of 2020 and will make PlayStation 5 available in North America on November 20th, 2020 at the recommended retail price of $499. So there you go. If this is true, then the PS5 is going to launch November 20th, 2020 at $500. Now, even if this is a shot in the dark and this is completely made up, that does seem very plausible. But that is a very specific date, and it's hard to say at this point in time if Sony has a specific date in mind. It does seem a little bit early, but then again, we do know that these things do need to be planned out ahead of time for sure in order for them to, you know, execute on it. And maybe that is the date that is currently set. It would make a lot of sense. I don't think anybody could see the PlayStation 5 launching outside of November. So, yeah, I expect it to launch November of 2020. November 20th, 2020 seems like a good date to me. The price point seems accurate as well. It does seem likely that the PlayStation 5, based off of everything we currently know about it, will be a $500 machine. I've seen some people speculating that they think it's maybe more likely it will be $400, because that is a really good price point for Sony. They've had tremendous success with that price point in the past, specifically with the PS4. But you guys have to understand that the PlayStation 5 is going to be a monster of a console. It's not just going to be a slight upgrade to the PS4 Pro. It's going to be a very significant leap forward in many ways. And because of that, the price point is going to have to reflect that. Now, one of the things I will say that does kind of maybe lend a little bit of credence to the price being maybe less than $500 is Jim Ryan not too long ago saying that they want to have their core fan base upgrade to the PS5 and adopt the PS5 at a faster rate than ever before in PlayStation's history. Now, that's going to be a difficult thing to achieve, honestly, with a $500 price tag. And this leads me into the next conversation where this individual, PlayStation Earbus, talks about backwards compatibility, full backwards compatibility with every single PlayStation generation. He puts out a tweet saying, or she, who I don't know if it's a he or she, but they put out a tweet saying PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with the majority of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 4 discs. Hashtag PlayStation Legacy. Yes, you did read that right. PlayStation 5 will be fully backwards compatible with PlayStation format discs released since 1994. So, wow. Okay, now we do have to remember this is a leak. This is supposedly an insider revealing this information. We don't know if it's true. We won't know if it's true until Sony officially announces it, but this would be absolutely huge if it is true. And one of the things that makes me believe this is just what we talked about a minute ago, is Jim Ryan talking about wanting PlayStation fans to adopt the PS5 at a faster rate than ever before. Well, this would be an absolutely massive selling point for Sony, to where if they come out here and say, not only if you pay $500 for the PS5 are you getting a massive upgrade, and they're going to be showing off the graphical capability, the better frame rates, the faster loading times, what the SSD will be capable of doing for games, and that'll be huge within itself. But they're also going to be taking time to focus on backwards compatibility. We do know that no matter what, at the very least, we are getting PS4 backwards compatibility, which will go a long way in automatically incentivizing a lot of people who are thinking about upgrading to the PS5 to do so they can bring those games forward with them. But for PlayStation fans in particular, I promise you, if Sony announces that you can play PS3, PS2, and PS1 games on the PS5, whether you can buy them and download them digitally, or even better yet, as it says here, you can actually use your discs if you save them, if you've collected them. And a lot of PlayStation fans have massive collections of PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 1 games. That would be huge, man. I mean, you're talking about like the ultimate PlayStation 5 console. Now, you take those two factors, right? And then you also throw in the launch exclusives that Sony's going to have. We know that Sony is going to be putting a big emphasis on the launch titles, as well as the titles that are going to come within the first couple years of the PlayStation 5's life cycle. I forget exactly who at Sony it was, but it was one of their higher up executives that recently went on record saying that they believe that the pipeline of games that they have coming with the PlayStation 5 will, quote, satisfy fans. Now, the reason why that quote is kind of a big deal is because it sounds as if Sony is particularly confident that the games they currently have in development that will launch alongside the PlayStation 5, as well as the games that are going to launch within the first year or two of the PlayStation 5, are going to satisfy their current fan base. Now, the thing is, in order for them to do that, to achieve satisfying their current fan base, well, that's in itself, I think, a pretty big task as well, because you have to think of the games that have been released this generation on PlayStation 4, some of the greatest games ever made. So the only way they're going to leave their fans feeling satisfied is if they match those games, or better yet, top those games. And so it gives me a lot of confidence as somebody who's looking forward to the PS5 that there's going to be some really exciting games to look forward to. And Sony is well aware of the fact that, and this is what it all comes down to, and this is where I want to end the video, regardless of whether or not this particular leak turns out to be true, which I hope it does because it sounds amazing, right? The thing that really gets me truly excited about the PlayStation 5, why I'm always excited to talk about it, I never get tired of talking about it, and I never get tired of hearing these leaks, whether or not they end up being true or not, is because one thing that I think we can derive from all of this at the end of the day is that Sony has some big, big plans for the PlayStation 5, and they are all in with trying to sell this console and selling it at a very rapid rate. And what that ultimately means for us, people who are not only PlayStation fans, but people who are fans of console gaming, people who are fans of big AAA single-player experiences, or just big AAA experiences in general, is that Sony is going to be putting all of their resources, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that their core fan base is not only satisfied, as they said, but is incentivized to upgrade, and that's just going to be better. That's going to result in better things for us. That's if we do get full backwards compatibility, that's going to be why. It's because Sony knows that this is an area where Microsoft has a big leg over them, right? A big edge over them, and they don't want that to be the case. They want to match them. This is called competition, right? And Sony's going to be pushing to ensure that their games remain at the highest quality possible. They're going to be, hopefully, and I really hope this is true, doing everything in their power to have backwards compatibility beyond PlayStation 4 games. And they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that they can keep the PlayStation 5 at the lowest possible price point. Now, $500 is a lot of money, but I will tell you that it's not necessarily the price that's going to make or break whether people go out and buy the PlayStation 5. It's all on how Sony sells it. $500 will not seem like that steep of a price point if they can sell you on it. If they can tell you exactly why and convince you why, $500 is well worth it with what you're getting, compared to a $400 price point. Because I just want to end this video saying I do believe that out of everything with this leak, that will be the truest thing is the $500 price point. As to whether or not it launches on exactly November 20th, yeah, I could see that as well, but that sounds like it could be subject to change. When it comes to the leak talking about full backwards compatibility, I want to just add this here too. This is not the first time we're hearing this. This is not the first time we're discussing this. This is something similar to the rumor that continues to persist about the PlayStation 5 being more powerful than Xbox, at least based off of the current dev kits that developers have. This is another rumor that continues to persist, where we're hearing kind of talks internally, and we're hearing from different places and different people where, it all could be made up, but you have to think it comes from somewhere, right? People saying that the PlayStation 5 is going to be focused on the future as well as the past, and it's going to be the ultimate PlayStation console. And guys, I cannot wait going into 2020 to see what this console is going to be about. I cannot wait to see the games announced for it. I am genuinely very excited. And that's why I go over these leaks. It doesn't matter to me how true or not true they may be. One thing I know for sure is that the PlayStation 5 is going to be an amazing console. And hearing these things come out just maybe gets my mind wandering a little bit too much and maybe gets my expectations a little too high. But I have a feeling Sony is going to be doing everything in their power to ensure that the PlayStation 5 is the most appealing console on the market and essentially the most appealing console that's ever been released for the traditional hardcore gaming enthusiast who cares about that experience. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. Be sure to let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Do you believe this? Do you believe this individual who's coming out here saying this? Again, we do have to reiterate that they were correct in predicting The Last of Us Part 2 release date. However, it did get delayed, thus proving things are subject to change even at the last minute. But do you believe what this person's saying about the PlayStation 5 price, the launch date, as well as full backwards compatibility? And be sure to let me know how excited you are for the PlayStation 5 coming next year. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it, found it informative, or just enjoyed my commentary. It really helps it out. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.